Chapter 10, Memorias. The park is an oasis of tranquility amid the university bustle. On this Sunday morning, it's relatively empty. Just a few early morning joggers, owners walking their dogs, and a small group of Thai Chi practitioners in the distance. We find a perfect spot under the shade of a leafy tree. Fair lays out 2 yoga mats side by side on the grass, while I observe the almost perfectly blue sky. The morning is surprisingly warm for this time of year, and I can feel a light layer of sweat forming at the base of my spine. We sit in lotus position. Well, Fair achieves the perfect position. I settle for legs crossed in a more casual manner, still feeling that slight tingling in the inner thigh region, a physical reminder of the previous night. We close our eyes, and Fair begins to guide a rhythmic breathing. But instead of emptying my mind, I find myself observing Fair through my eyelashes. The morning sun bathes her profile in a golden light, highlighting the delicate curve of her jaw, the naturally full lips I've tasted once, the graceful arch of her clavicles that I've always found fascinating. I observe how her tank top perfectly molds to her torso, how the skin of her shoulders seems soft to the touch. There's a lightness in her presence, something I've always admired and never managed to replicate. Fair lives intensely in the present. No 5-year plans, no early applications for graduate programs, no constant anxiety about the future. One day at a time, one experience at a time, absorbing everything life has to offer without judgment or hesitation. Her body seems to move without the tension I always carry in my shoulders. A fragment of memory unexpectedly emerges. A night almost 2 years ago, after many glasses of cheap wine, in a moment of Fair's vulnerability, the end of a devastating relationship. A night that we tacitly agreed never to mention in daylight, but that sometimes returns to my thoughts at the most inconvenient moments. The memory of her delicate hands exploring my body with curiosity and gentleness, so different from the larger and firmer hands of Pedro. The taste of wine in her kisses, the texture of her skin against mine, the shared intimacy, the mutual discoveries, the vulnerability I never allowed myself again. "Sofia, are you meditating or sleeping?" Fair's soft voice pulls me from my reverie. I open my eyes, feeling the heat rise up my neck. "Sorry, my mind is restless today." "I noticed." She studies me for a moment, her green eyes as penetrating as always, that same beautiful but indecipherable gaze. "You were breathing in an interesting way." I swallow hard, aware that my breathing had become deeper and irregular while my mind wandered through forbidden memories. "I'm just processing a lot of things." She doesn't seem convinced. "Well, the handsome psychology guys didn't show up today. How about Asai? It seems like today only the hot girls came to the park." She finishes with an enigmatic smile that makes me question if there's a double meaning in her words, her eyes briefly scanning my body in a way that awakens memories of that night so long ago. 20 minutes later, we're sitting in a colorful acai shop near campus. Fair distractedly stirs her acai covered with granola and fresh fruits while we talk about light topics. The new collection from a brand we both like, the recent scandal involving a professor from the sociology department, the plans for the university festival next weekend. But there's a restlessness in me that I can't suppress. Something in the way Fair occasionally averts her gaze, as if keeping a secret, in the way she moistens her lips before smiling. I suddenly realize that, while I share every detail of my life with her, including the most recent complications with Pedro, it's been a while since I've heard about her own adventures. "Fair," I interrupt her analysis of a fashion trend, "I just realized something. I literally tell you everything about my life, but it's been months since you've shared anything about your personal life." She arches an eyebrow, an amused expression dancing on her lips. "What exactly do you want to know, Sofia?" "I don't know, you used to share your experiences, now total silence." A slow smile forms on her face, that same smile that used to precede spicy confessions. I had a very interesting experience last night. Something in her tone makes me sit up straighter, an involuntary shiver running down my spine. I'm listening. I tried something new. She takes a spoonful of acai, clearly savoring my curiosity. Something I'd never done before, something that involves, let's say, exploring alternative territories. With whom? Michelle. The name falls between us, laden with meanings. Michelle, the final-year visual artist, known as much for her provocative sculptures as for her defiant attitude. I vaguely remember seeing her at a semester party, tall, dark hair, intense eyes, full lips always curved in a confident smile. Michelle from Visual Arts, seriously, I can't hide my surprise. Fair nods. I messaged her yesterday. I was, let's say, in need of company, and my regular hookup wasn't available. She pauses, stirring the acai. You know, after you, Michelle is the most amazing woman I've been with. The casual comment about our past catches me off guard, making my heart accelerate slightly. The memory of her soft moans against my ear resurfaces without warning. We had never touched on the subject again. It seems she read my mind. It seems she knew what I was thinking while meditating, but why now? I wonder without really wanting to know the answer. And, I insist, leaning forward, suddenly very interested in details that would normally make me blush. She invited me to her place. Fair lowers her voice, leaning over the table, her blouse opening slightly and revealing the soft curve of her breasts. When I arrived, she had already showered and had some toys in the living room. Those very specific ones, if you know what I mean. Michelle always seemed to be direct, I comment, imagining the scene, the heat rising up my neck. She said something like, "You called me, so today you do everything I want." A mischievous smile plays on Fair's lips. First I got on my knees for her, if you know what I mean, and I stayed there until, well, let's say I gave my best until she begged me to stop. I understand perfectly, I say, feeling an unexpected warmth rise up my neck and descend to more intimate places. The mental image of Fair kneeling, her lips exploring Michelle's most intimate secrets, affects me more than it should. Afterward, she makes a dramatic pause, her eyes fixed on mine as if she could read every improper thought passing through my mind at this moment. Michelle said she wanted to explore the back door, her eyes fixed on mine, observing my reaction. So you. I leave the question hanging, presuming I understood the direction of the story, my breathing suddenly more shallow. It's not what you're thinking. Fair seems to enjoy my confusion. I thought the same thing you're thinking now, that she wanted, to receive, but no. She leans in even more, lowering her voice, her warm breath against my face. Actually, she handed me one of the toys, a very specific one, those with accessories, and said she wanted me to be the first to pay a little visit through the back. It takes me a second to process what she's insinuating. When I understand, my eyes widen and I feel a wave of heat course through my body, concentrating in places already sensitive from the previous night. Wait, you mean it was you who? Exactly, she confirms, visibly satisfied with my reaction. It was my debut as an explorer of the narrower path. First time I visited that particular territory in another person. And how was it for you? I ask, genuinely curious, lightly biting my lower lip. Strange at first, but then, she nibbles her lower lip, a gesture I've always found incredibly seductive. There's something incredibly powerful in being the first person to take someone to this kind of experience. And Michelle. Let's say that the moment the visitor reached the black hole was explosive. Fair leans back, an expression of satisfaction on her face. I've never seen anyone react that way. The living room carpet was completely soaked, as if a waterfall had appeared right there, and the building manager called to complain about the screams. Literally, Sofia, the neighbors thought someone was being murdered. I can't contain a laugh, despite the heat that now spreads throughout my body, a mixture of embarrassment and excitement that I haven't felt since that night 2 years ago. So she approved of the alternative route exploration. The entire building found out how much she approved. Fair takes another sip of her drink, her eyes never leaving mine. It was a revelation. I never imagined that I would be the one to open new paths, if you know what I mean. I always saw myself more as a recipient of experiences than as the person who provides them. There's an additional layer to her words, an implicit message that seems directed at my current situation. Or perhaps it's just my hyperactive imagination, stimulated by the dangerous combination of memories with Pedro and memories with Fair. Do you think that's what I'm doing with Pedro? Letting him guide me to places I would never visit on my own? Fair considers the question, tilting her head. I think that maybe you're finally allowing life to surprise you, instead of trying to control every variable. She reaches for my hand on the table, her fingers tracing small circles on my palm, the same gesture that Pedro makes. And that's not necessarily bad, Sofia. Some of the best experiences in life come when we abandon the script. Her fingers are warm on mine, the touch bringing echoes of past intimacy. For a moment, I feel divided between multiple possible realities. The dedicated student headed to York, the passionate girlfriend who could choose Pedro, and another version of myself that I never seriously considered, a version that could explore even more unexpected paths, perhaps even with the person sitting in front of me. How do you do it? I finally ask. How do you live so freely without fear of the consequences? Who said I don't have fear? Fair smiles, a smile that doesn't completely reach her eyes. I just decided that the fear of not living fully is greater than the fear of what might happen if I take risks. We sit in silence for a moment, her words reverberating between us. There's a wisdom in her that I've always underestimated, hidden beneath layers of spontaneity and humor. Pedro invited me to dinner tonight, I suddenly reveal, to talk about everything. And you're going. There's something in her eyes that I can't completely identify. Would it be disappointment? I think so, I sigh. I need to at least try to understand what's happening. If it's just a temporary fixation or something I should take more seriously. Fair squeezes my hand once more before releasing it, her fingers sliding slowly over mine in a subtle caress that makes me question if I imagined the intention behind the gesture. Whatever your decision, I'll be here, to celebrate or to console with cheap wine and bad movies. Thank you. I smile, genuinely grateful for her constant presence in my life, an anchor amid the uncertainties. As we finish our assays and begin to walk, I feel a clarity I didn't expect to find today. Not about what to do regarding Pedro or York, these decisions are still nebulous, but about the importance of being open to unforeseen possibilities, to detours that might lead to destinations I didn't even know I desired. I observe Fair's confident walk beside me, the soft swaying of her hips, and wonder if there's yet another alternative path I never fully considered exploring. Her fingers occasionally brush against mine as we walk, and I'm not sure if it's intentional or coincidence. Perhaps true growth doesn't come from meticulously following a plan, but from learning to navigate with grace when life inevitably takes us into unknown waters. And perhaps, just perhaps, that's exactly what I need now. Not more control, but courage to let go of the reins and discover where the river takes me.